Watch out. Your thoughts are sabotaging you. Did you know your mind can be the biggest enemy of your success? Negative, repetitive thoughts that seem harmless, but have the power to destroy your self-esteem, your decisions, and your life. And the worst part, you don't even notice. But don't worry, it's not too late to change. Are you ready to take back control of your mind? Let's discover together how you can stop being controlled and start acting with intention. The path to transforming your reality begins now. Stay with me. The reality a person sees isn't a faithful mirror of the world, but a reflection of what happens inside them. From childhood, we're bombarded by experiences that shape our thoughts, and without realizing it, these ideas become lenses through which we see everything. It's as if each automatic thought were a hidden script, silently directing our choices and emotions. Carl Jung warned, "What isn't made conscious becomes destiny." So it's no exaggeration to say that much of what seems like bad luck or coincidence is actually an old internal movie being replayed. Imagine, for example, someone who believes deep down that nothing works out for me. This person might try changing jobs, starting a new relationship, making new plans. But guess what? Almost magically, or rather unconsciously, they recreate the same frustrations, the same disappointments. It's like trying to build a new house with cracked bricks. Without realizing it, they aren't just interpreting the world. They're being interpreted by the old scripts they carry within themselves. The mind, without filter and without vigilance, becomes a factory of repetitive realities. That's why it's so important to learn to observe what's happening in the background of our consciousness. It's not enough to just want to think positively or make loose affirmations. You need to dive into the actual mechanism generating these thoughts. But here's the most intriguing point. What if much of what we call thought isn't really ours? What if there's something even deeper, guiding us, silently, like an invisible director? Well, that's exactly what leads us to face the next key piece in this journey. There is a part of us that works behind the scenes, silently pulling the strings of our life without us noticing. It's the unconscious, that old acquaintance Jung described as an active force, and not just a chest of forgotten memories. When someone says, "It seems like everything goes wrong for me," often it's the unconscious operating in automatic mode. It's not bad luck, it's old programming acting from the shadows. As long as this programming isn't brought to light, it continues sabotaging plans, dreams, and relationships without asking permission. Looking inward is like turning on a flashlight in a basement you've avoided your whole life. Here's a simple example. Ever seen people who keep changing jobs only to end up with an authoritarian boss every time? Or those who change relationships, but the pattern of disrespect repeats? It's not just the outside world, it's the invisible script the unconscious insists on performing. To break this cycle, you need to stop blaming bad luck and start deciphering the hidden messages in life's stumbles. It's easy to get distracted, to think that positive thinking alone solves the problem. But if the unconscious continues operating with the same patterns of fear, guilt, or abandonment, no beautiful phrase in the mirror will change much. The issue runs deeper, and that's where the key to true transformation lies. And speaking of invisible patterns, there's an even more sneaky force working day and night inside our mind, and that's what we'll talk about next. Have you ever stopped to think about how many thoughts you have each day without even realizing it? Believe it or not, the vast majority of them are automatic, repetitive, and based on old patterns, often instinctive. Jung talked about complexes, which are like small egos within our psyche, each with its own gravitational force. Imagine that every negative thought you have, "I'm not good enough," "It's not worth trying," it's a kind of complex that takes control and starts driving your life. It acts like an autopilot, leading you without you noticing. When a complex is in command, it seems like we're just reacting to life, without truly choosing our responses. These thoughts don't come from nowhere. They're generated by past experiences, especially unresolved ones. And here's the trick. The more we try to ignore or repress these thoughts, the more power we give them. They grow stronger in the shadows, like a monster that grows as you avoid it. The best path? Observe. Don't fight against the thoughts, but see them clearly. This takes away their power and puts us in control. Now, this isn't a simple task. Psychic complexes, these little internal demons, love to hide in the shadow, operating behind the scenes. When you notice a negative pattern, something like procrastination, insecurity, or fear of failure, it's time to ask, which complex is acting now? The truth is that by confronting these complexes, you begin to return control to your conscious self, which leads to the next essential step in the journey to free yourself from invisible chains. And it's exactly about how to do this that we'll talk in the next topic. You know that feeling that the world is always against you, or that people around you are always making the same kind of mistake? Well, often this is projection, one of the most subtle and powerful ways the mind uses to sabotage our reality. Jung taught us that we don't see the world as it really is, but as we are inside. What's inside our psyche, unresolved beliefs and feelings, end up being projected onto the external world. An authoritarian boss might just be a reflection of our insecurity, or a frustrated relationship might be the reflection of our own unhealed emotional wounds. Projection is a form of psychic defense because it allows us not to face what's painful within ourselves. Instead of looking at our own feelings and weaknesses, we throw them outward, distancing ourselves from personal responsibility. A practical example of this is the fear of betrayal. If you have a deep belief that you're not worthy of being loved or trusted, you might end up projecting this into all your relationships, seeing disloyalty where there might be none. This projection prevents you from seeing the world clearly and objectively because you're distorting everything based on what you believe about yourself. Recognizing that we're projecting our own fears, insecurities, and anger onto the world is the first step to regaining control of our life. And the big turning point begins when, instead of pointing fingers at others, you start asking, what within me is creating this perception? True freedom comes when we understand that by changing our internal perception, the world around us also begins to change. But how to do this consciously? That's something we'll explore in the next topic. The shadow is that part of our psyche we prefer not to see, the one we try to sweep under the rug. Jung described the shadow as the totality of all aspects of our personality that we reject, either because we consider them unacceptable, shameful, or simply uncomfortable. But here's the crucial detail. The shadow doesn't disappear just because we ignore it. On the contrary, it grows in strength, governing our attitudes and reactions without our awareness. For example, someone who denies having anger but constantly gets irritated without apparent reason is letting the shadow take control. Not dealing with the shadow is like living in a house with leaks and thinking that if you do not look at them, the problem will go away. And the worst part? This is directly reflected in our actions and decisions. When we don't embrace the parts of ourselves we prefer to reject, these parts manifest in distorted ways. Control of the shadow lies in our ability to accept it, to see these dark aspects without fear, without judgment. When you face your anger, insecurity, or jealousy head-on, instead of denying them, you begin to reclaim the power that was previously lost in the darkness of the psyche. To reprogram the mind and create a new state of balance, it's essential to illuminate what's hidden in the shadow, and this requires courage. Courage to face what you fear within yourself. By doing this, you begin to know yourself more deeply, and the journey of self-knowledge becomes the first step toward true freedom. But this process of individuation, as Jung called it, isn't quick and requires consistency. And what comes next in this journey, how to handle all this, you'll understand in the next topic. It's impressive how our thoughts shape our emotions, and not the other way around as many people believe. When you catch yourself repeatedly thinking about something negative, the impact on your energy and emotions is almost immediate. Jung understood that emotions aren't just passing reactions, but powerful forces that, if not cared for, can transform into permanent states. The fear of failure, for example, feeds anxiety, and anxiety feeds fear. It's a vicious cycle that feeds itself, creating emotional habits that seem difficult to break. This cycle can last for years if you don't stop to reflect on what you're thinking. Let's consider a practical example. Imagine you have an unconscious belief that you're not good enough. This thought will generate a series of emotions like insecurity and frustration, which in turn generate more negative thoughts. You feel trapped in a spiral that seems to have no end. Now, when you begin to question these thoughts and replace them with more empowering narratives like, "I'm in constant growth," or "I can learn from my mistakes," you interrupt this cycle. This doesn't mean ignoring emotions, but understanding their origin and creating a new mental path that allows your emotions to work for you, not against you. And the most fascinating part of this process is that by changing thoughts, you change your relationship with your emotions. Your mind and body, which were previously in a state of tension, begin to align towards something more positive. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but it's a constant process of mental reprogramming. In the next topic, we'll explore how this change in mentality and emotion is reinforced through active self-awareness, and how you can use this to regain complete control of your life. Many people live as if they were on autopilot, simply reacting to daily stimuli without reflecting on what's happening inside. Jung called this a lack of active awareness, and he believed that this internal disconnection is one of the main reasons we stay stuck in negative patterns. Active self-awareness, on the other hand, is the act of observing your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors objectively, without getting caught up in them. It's like being a spectator of your own life, seeing your patterns clearly and without judgment. Imagine, for example, that you're having a bad day at work and someone provokes you. Instead of reacting impulsively as usual, you take a step back and ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Why am I reacting this way? By doing this, you're already cutting off the automatic reaction and taking control of the situation. Active self-awareness is that space between stimulus and response, where you consciously decide how to react. The more you practice this impartial observation, the more you can interrupt vicious cycles, such as anxiety or irritation, and begin to act in a way more aligned with your true self. This practice of observing yourself is simple, but not easy. It takes time, patience, and most importantly, a genuine commitment to self-knowledge. A practical example of how to train active self-awareness is meditation. Meditating isn't just silencing the mind, but observing your thoughts and emotions as they arise. With this, you begin to understand what's behind your feelings and attitudes, creating a space of choice where there was only reactivity before. And what you'll discover is that this exercise of being present with your own thoughts will prepare you for the next big step in the journey of personal transformation, reprogramming the mind with new symbols. But we'll see that in the next topic. The unconscious, as Jung well explained, communicates primarily through symbols. These symbols are images, metaphors, or representations that have a profound power over our psyche. They are not just pretty images or empty words. They're vehicles of powerful meanings that can reprogram our mind. When you visualize something positive, like a scene of success or happiness, you're creating a powerful symbol that begins to be engraved in your psyche. This symbol, unlike automatic negative thoughts, begins to influence your behavior in a positive and transformative way. If, for example, you want to overcome the fear of public speaking, imagine yourself speaking confidently in front of an audience while feeling the satisfaction of success. But the real magic happens when you begin to use symbols actively and intentionally. Jung suggested that the most powerful images for our mind are those that have a deep meaning, such as archetypes. The hero archetype, for example, can be a powerful tool for reprogramming your mind and emotions. Imagine that you adopt the hero archetype in your personal journey. As you face your fears and challenges, you begin to see yourself as someone who can overcome any obstacle, just like a hero in your own story. This creates a new mental and emotional pattern because the symbol of the hero begins to guide your actions unconsciously. Here's the crucial point. Reprogramming the mind through symbols doesn't happen forcefully. On the contrary, it should be a natural and fluid process. Use images, rituals, and symbolic practices that resonate with your heart. It could be a simple positive affirmation, a visualization before sleep, or even a charm that symbolizes something important to you. The secret is to integrate these symbols into your daily life so that they become the new patterns that your mind follows. And how does this transform everything? In the next topic, we'll explore how the hero archetype comes into play, helping you rewrite your story and embrace your maximum potential. The hero's journey isn't just a mythological concept, it's a profound representation of the transformation process we all go through when facing our own internal challenges. Jung saw the hero archetype as a reflection of our ability to overcome fear and embrace the unknown within ourselves. Each time you face an obstacle in your life, you're actually being called to this journey. It's as if life were saying, here's your challenge, now show who you really are. And this journey isn't about eliminating fear, but facing it and moving forward anyway. The true strength of the hero is knowing that, despite doubt and fear, action is always the path to transformation. For example, imagine someone who's afraid of exposing themselves, whether in a presentation, at work, or even in a relationship. The hero within this person won't wait for the fear to disappear before acting. They act despite the fear. Every time you decide to do something outside your comfort zone, you're actually making a conscious choice to become the hero of your own story. The hero isn't the one who never feels fear, but the one who faces adversity with courage, knowing that their journey is what strengthens them. And each small step toward overcoming a challenge is a small chapter in this heroic journey. But what happens when you allow yourself to adopt the hero archetype in your life? You begin to realize that you're no longer a victim of circumstances, but an active protagonist in your own story. By adopting this role, you begin to make bolder decisions and actively seek transformation. The best part of this journey? It never ends. Each new challenge becomes a new opportunity for growth. And throughout this journey, you realize that the true victory lies in who you become as you overcome these obstacles. However, for transformation to be maintained, it's necessary to consolidate this new mental programming. That's what we'll explore in the next topic. True transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistency, practice, and above all, patience. To consolidate the new mental programming, you need to integrate the changes into your daily life. Jung believed that, like nature, the human mind responds to repetition and intention. What you repeat every day creates your reality. If you spend the day telling yourself, "I'm not good enough," this becomes part of your identity. But if you start practicing positive affirmations, visualizing your success, and acting with confidence, you're creating new mental cues that over time replace the old ones. The key is to reinforce the new patterns until they become automatic. Daily practice is what really makes the difference. It's not about an instant change, but a continuous process. Every time you question a negative thought and replace it with a positive one, you're taking a step toward new mental programming. A good example of this is meditation, a practice that Jung believed to be extremely powerful for connecting the conscious with the unconscious. Meditating every day, even if just for a few minutes, helps you observe your own thoughts, making it easier to notice when a sabotaging thought arises. When you notice this thought, you have the chance to transform it before it gains strength. But beyond meditation, it's fundamental that you also practice self-compassion and self-acceptance. After all, change isn't about hammering yourself for everything you did wrong, but about recognizing your potential and acting from it. If you're trying to reprogram your mind, understand that results come with time. Each day is an opportunity to take one step closer to your best self. However, what really solidifies this process is realizing that with each small action, you're creating a mind that works for you, not against you. And when this happens, what was once automatic and sabotaging transforms into something that propels your life forward more and more. Now that you understand how your thoughts might be sabotaging you, it's time to act. Start questioning everything that passes through your mind. What beliefs have you been carrying without realizing it? True transformation begins when you take control over what you think. Are you ready to take the first step? Leave your questions in the comments and share what you learned today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to continue your journey of self-knowledge. And check out the video on screen that will help you understand even more about the power of your mind. Let's go on this journey together.